Nigeria's power crisis, grid failures and future risks. Welcome to Waiting to Roar TV, where we shed light on critical issues impacting Nigeria and the world at large. Today, we are addressing a persistent and concerning problem, the repeated collapse of Nigeria's national electricity grid. Why does this happen? And what implications does it have for Nigeria's economy, security, and future? Let's break down this issue to understand its causes, consequences, and what it means for every Nigerian. Understanding the frequent grid collapses. Nigeria's electricity grid has a history of repeated collapses, often leaving millions without power. This instability can be attributed to several interconnected issues. 1. Aging infrastructure. Most of the infrastructure used to distribute electricity in Nigeria is outdated and poorly maintained. Some components of the grid have been in use since the 1960s, far exceeding their expected lifespan. With limited funding for modernization, these aging structures are prone to failure, especially under high demand. 2. Flow generation capacity. Nigeria's installed generation capacity is theoretically around 12,500 megawatts. However, due to inefficiencies and technical constraints, the actual generation rarely exceeds 5,000 megawatts. For a population of over 200 million, this falls severely short, resulting in regular strain on the system. 3. Transmission constraints. Even when generation is adequate, the transmission capacity, the ability to transport electricity from power plants to consumers, is lacking. Nigeria's transmission network loses an estimated 30 to 40% of the electricity produced due to outdated lines and substations. This loss further weakens the grid's stability and makes the system vulnerable to total collapse. 4. Ineffective regulatory oversight and funding. The sector has seen numerous attempts at privatization and reform, but inadequate oversight and ineffective regulations have stifled progress. Moreover, consistent underfunding means that essential repairs and upgrades are postponed, making the grid even more susceptible to collapse. 5. Vandalism and theft. Another factor compounding the grid's unreliability is the high rate of vandalism and theft of power equipment. Sabotage of critical infrastructure and theft of cables disrupt the power supply and lead to unpredictable grid failures. The implications for Nigeria. Repeated grid failures have severe implications for Nigeria's economy, security, and the daily lives of its citizens. Let's examine the key areas under threat. 1. Economic growth. The instability of the national grid stifles economic growth as businesses, factories, and industries rely heavily on power for operation. Frequent outages mean higher operational costs for businesses, which in turn affect the economy. Small businesses and entrepreneurs who can't afford generators are especially hard hit, and the cost of alternative power sources drives up production costs for larger companies, impacting inflation. 2. National security. Inadequate power supply has direct and indirect impacts on national security. Hospitals, communication networks, and essential services rely on stable electricity to function effectively. The frequent power outages can destabilize essential services, putting lives and critical infrastructure at risk. Furthermore, prolonged blackouts can create unrest as citizens grow frustrated with the unchanging situation, potentially leading to protests and civil discontent. 3. Technological advancement and development. Reliable electricity is essential for innovation, technology, and digital transformation. With a weak power sector, Nigeria is at risk of lagging behind other nations in adopting new technologies. This delay affects areas like healthcare, education, and research, ultimately impacting Nigeria's competitiveness on the global stage. 4. Foreign investment. Investors are cautious of entering markets with unstable power sectors. The frequent collapses of Nigeria's grid discourage foreign companies from establishing operations in the country. Without foreign investment, Nigeria risks slower economic growth, limited job creation, and fewer opportunities for skill development among its workforce. Possible solutions and path forward. 1. Increased investment in infrastructure. Addressing grid reliability starts with investment in modern infrastructure. Nigeria could prioritize upgrading its transmission lines and substations, replacing outdated components, and investing in new technology to monitor and manage grid stability. 2. Decentralizing the power grid. Developing regional grids or microgrids in place of a centralized national grid could help alleviate pressure. This approach would allow different regions to manage power more efficiently and reduce dependency on a single, overstressed grid. 3. Renewable energy adoption. Integrating renewable energy sources, such as solar and wind power, into the grid could reduce the strain on traditional power plants and help stabilize electricity supply. Nigeria has abundant sunlight and wind resources, which could be harnessed to provide a more reliable and eco-friendly energy supply. 4. Enhanced regulatory framework and accountability. Strengthening the regulatory framework to ensure accountability and transparency in the power sector could lead to more efficient management. Ensuring that funds allocated for grid improvement are effectively utilized is essential. 5. Community awareness and security. Implementing measures to protect power infrastructure from vandalism, along with community awareness programs, could help reduce instances of theft and sabotage. Educating citizens about the importance of safeguarding these assets may encourage local involvement in protecting grid components. Final thoughts. The recurring collapse of Nigeria's national grid is not only a technical problem, it's a critical national issue with far-reaching consequences. Addressing it requires a comprehensive approach that includes infrastructure investment, policy reforms, and public awareness. With the right solutions, Nigeria can overcome these challenges and secure a stable, prosperous future for all its citizens. Thank you for tuning in to Waiting to Raw TV. If you found this analysis insightful, don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more in-depth discussions on the issues that matter most.